This is the Resilience Code, turning adversity into strength, one story at a time. I am your host, Arbaina Kawilan, and if you ever have a story of your own, there is a link in my bio. We've gone underground with roots, we've weathered storms, we've reached for branches, but leaves are what the world sees. They're the part of us on display, the proof of life. But here's the thing, leaves don't always tell the story. They can look vibrant even when their roots are hurting. They can fall, and it doesn't mean the tree is dead. And in my life, I've had plenty of seasons where the leaves looked alive, but inside, I was breaking. I think I first learned this in high school. I went to a private school where everyone was rich and popular and had the big house to prove it. At one point became this thing where everyone needs to visit each other's houses. And one day, the group wanted to see mine. I panicked. Our home was in a shack, but it wasn't the kind of place you'd invite people to when your classmates lived in mansions. I felt cornered, pressured, almost bullied into proving myself. So I pointed out a nice house in the area and said it was mine. I even added, but I couldn't take you in. I don't have a key. And of course, someone knew the truth. And just like that, I was exposed, humiliated. That was my first lesson on putting on leaves, presenting an image I thought the world would accept, only to find it couldn't hold. And that habit followed me in adulthood. In my first marriage, I wore leaves to cover up the pain. I said yes to marriage after being impregnated at 16 years old to break the cycle of children growing up without fathers. The cycle I lived. I thought marriage would be the solution. For years, I held on as tightly as I could. I wanted to prove I hadn't failed, even as it broke me. Until one day, my daughter, just 7 years old at that time, saw me crying. She looked at me and said, nonchalantly, "You should just leave him." And that's when it hit me. The leaves I was clinging to weren't protecting her, even though that was my purpose. They were only teaching her that love means enduring pain in silence. And I do not want her to see that. My second marriage looked different, but the pattern was the same. On social media, it looked like glitz and glamour. Concerts, Broadway shows, sports events, fancy dinners. People thought I was living the dream. But the truth is, those events became our leaves. They were the buffer. We could fight all week, but if there was a concert coming up, we knew the fight would stop, at least for the night, because he had to put on a friendly face. We both did. And then COVID hit. No concerts, no dinners, no distractions. Nothing left to hide behind. That's when the leaves fell. That's when the mask couldn't hold anymore. The weight of losing work in the live entertainment industry made him smaller, angrier, more controlling. And without the distraction of events, all we had left was the truth. And it was painful. That's the danger of leaves. They can look beautiful on the outside even while the inside is crumbling. And it wasn't just about the mask I created. Some of the heaviest leaves I carried were the ones that others put on me. As a child, my mother didn't want me. But as I grew older, as I performed well in school, and as people began to notice my appearance, suddenly I became valuable. Because I looked different. I was admired. Elders praised me, treated me like a show child, a trophy. Not truly loved, but displayed as proof of my mother's sacrifice. That she's in a different country busting her ass for me. But trophies didn't get to be human. So when I got pregnant at 16, the disappointment was crushing. They couldn't fathom how their golden child could make a choice like that. And I do take responsibility for my part. But at the end of the day, I was still a child. And a child's choice are shaped by the environment that she's in, by what love and safety she was or wasn't given. But none of that mattered. To them, I had failed. When my mother was informed that I was pregnant and I was about to be married, the first question she asked me was, "How could you do this to me?" Powerful words indeed. That's what roles are. Leaves others attached to you. Shiny enough for the world to admire, but never the whole truth of who you are. But here's one thing about leaves. They're not meant to last forever. And the ones that aren't real will eventually have to fall. For me, the shedding began when I came back to the United States in 2018. The first time I had come, I was still in my hijab, still very Muslim, still trying to stay safe in a world where racism bruised me in ways I hadn't expected. Yeah, I was a Muslim hijabi in South Carolina. That was interesting. By the time I returned, I decided I'm not wearing it anymore. And that decision was both practical and spiritual. It wasn't safe, but it was also a doorway to awakening. One of the first things I shed was the shame I carried for my hair. In the Philippines, my curls were a joke. Even my own family made fun of me. They called me Maggie, like the Maggie noodles. To them, it was funny. To them, it was a term of endearment. To me, it was humiliating. But when I stopped covering my hair, I started to discover its beauty. I learned how to care for it. People told me it was beautiful, and for the first time, I believed them. That was the first layer of shedding, trading shame for pride. The next layer came when I realized that the father of my children wasn't truly my partner. My mother even offered to pay his way so he could join me here, And he still said no. That was the moment I knew we didn't share the same vision that I thought we did. I was still breaking my back to provide, and he wasn't willing to match me, even after help was offered. I didn't leave gracefully. I left through rebellion. Then I met a man I thought carried the same values that I have during the process, but he didn't. But he did give me an exit. And he gave me clarity on what I could no longer tolerate. He became my second husband. That shedding was the hardest. He was abusive, yes, but he was also a provider. He gave me confidence to show my skin after years of shame. He showed me glimpses of generosity and convenience that changed how I saw life. But at the end of the day, he was my abuser. After leaving him, I was stripped to nothing. I became homeless, jobless, penniless, in a foreign country where I had no family but him. But sometimes you have to become nothing, absolutely nothing, so you can become everything. That's the gift of shedding. It strips you until the truth remains. And from there, you grow again. Leaves make the unseen visible. They show that growth is happening, even quietly. And they remind us it's okay to change. It's okay to let go. Falling isn't failing. It's part of the cycle. So today I want to ask you, what leaves are you showing to the world right now? Do they reflect what's really inside you? Or just what you want others to see? And which ones have gone to its time, so something new can grow? Because resilience isn't about keeping every leaf perfect. It's about knowing you can survive the seasons of change. That's it for today's story. If it stayed with you, stick with it. If it helped, pass it on. And if you've got something of your own, there is a link in my bio. You don't have to fix it, just name it. And always remember, resilience isn't about pretending you're okay. It's about choosing, again and again, not to be hardened, but to be changed.